The wind cut through the bus stop like icy fingers, tugging at the edges of her thin coat. She stood there, no more than 15, clutching a baby tight against her chest. His tiny cries were muffled by the blanket, but her own tears streamed openly down her face. Dozens of people came and went. Some slowed for a moment, their eyes flicking toward her, but then they moved on. Others didn't even glance. A bus hissed to a stop, doors opened and closed again. She stayed where she was, still crying, still rocking the baby in her arms. The cold was settling deep into her bones. Somewhere down the street, paws patted steadily against the wet pavement. A shape emerged from the blur of traffic and fog. A German shepherd, tall, powerful, and alert, walking beside an elderly man. The dog's ears twitched. His pace slowed. His amber eyes locked on the girl. And in the next few moments, he would do something no one else at that bus stop had the courage to do. The sky hung low that afternoon, heavy with clouds that looked ready to burst into snow at any moment. The street lamps had already flickered on, casting small circles of yellow light onto the damp pavement. Lily shifted her weight from one foot to the other, her arms tightening around her baby brother, Oliver. He was only 6 months old, his tiny fists pressing into her coat as he whimpered. She tried to hush him, bouncing gently, but the cold made him restless. She was tired, more tired than any 15-year-old should be. That morning, her mother had left for work 2 towns over, catching the first bus before dawn. Her stepfather had disappeared into another room after breakfast, muttering something about errands. By noon, Lily was the only one left to care for Oliver, and when a neighbor offered her a ride to visit her aunt, she agreed. But the ride had dropped her off in the wrong part of town. Now she was waiting for a bus she wasn't even sure would come. The people around her barely noticed her. A man in a business suit kept checking his watch, muttering under his breath. 2 teenagers shared earbuds, scrolling through their phones. A woman with a grocery cart stood far enough away to avoid making eye contact. Lily could feel their avoidance like a wall. Her cheeks burned, not from the cold, but from the shame of being so obviously ignored. Just down the block, Mr. Harris walked slowly, a cloth leash looped loosely around his wrist. His companion, Max, matched his pace with steady, deliberate steps. Max was no ordinary dog. 8 years old, with a powerful build and a coat of black and tan, he carried the quiet dignity of someone, or something, who had seen much and acted when it mattered. He was a retired search and rescue dog, once part of a team that found missing hikers, tracked lost children, and comforted people in their worst moments. Now he lived a slower life with Mr. Harris, who had been his partner during those long years. Their bond was unspoken but unbreakable, 2 old souls who understood each other perfectly without words. Max's walks were usually uneventful, filled with the sense of the neighborhood and the rhythm of his paws on the ground. But as they neared the bus stop, his gait changed. It was subtle at first, a slight lift of the head, ears tilting forward. He sniffed the air, then looked ahead. His amber eyes found Lily and lingered. Mr. Harris followed his gaze. He saw a young girl holding a baby, shoulders hunched against the cold. Her eyes were red. The baby's cries were soft but insistent, a sound that seemed to pierce through the noise of traffic and chatter. "Poor thing," Mr. Harris murmured. But he didn't stop. The sidewalk was busy, and he assumed, like so many others, that someone else would step in. Max, however, was already slowing down. Lily glanced at the dog for only a moment, offering a faint, exhausted smile before looking away. She had always liked dogs, but she didn't have the energy to interact. Still, there was something in Max's gaze, steady, curious, concerned, that made her feel, for the first time in hours, like someone was actually seeing her. The bus stop felt colder with every passing minute. The wind whipped through the thin gap in her coat, making Oliver squirm and fuss. Lily pulled the blanket tighter around him, whispering softly, "It's okay, Ollie. Just a little longer." She didn't know yet that trouble was already circling. A man had been leaning against the far end of the bus shelter, pretending to scroll on his phone. His eyes flicked toward Lily every few seconds, lingering on the bundle in her arms. He wasn't just curious. There was intent in his stare, the kind that made your stomach turn before your brain could explain why. Max noticed. His ears shifted again, his body just slightly angling in Lily's direction. Lily didn't see it yet, The man at the edge of the shelter shifted his weight, pushing himself off the wall. He slid his phone into his pocket and started pacing, slow and deliberate, each pass bringing him a little closer to Lily. Lily kept her head down, rocking Oliver gently, but she could feel it, that heavy, prickling sensation when someone is staring at you. She glanced sideways, hoping maybe she was imagining it. She wasn't. He was looking straight at her, not smiling, not speaking, just watching. Her fingers tightened around the blanket, pulling Oliver in even closer. The baby began to fuss again, the cold air making his cheeks pink. Lily whispered, "Shoo, we'll be home soon." But her own voice was starting to tremble. A bus approached, squealing brakes echoing off the buildings. Lily's heart lifted for a moment, until she saw the number. It wasn't hers. The doors hissed open, a few people stepped off, and the bus pulled away, leaving her alone with fewer people around. That's when the man spoke. "Cute baby," he said, his tone flat but somehow unsettling. Lily's mouth went dry. "Thanks," she murmured, eyes fixed on the ground. "How old?" She hesitated. 6 months. "You a babysitter or something?" Her stomach turned. She didn't answer. The man took another step toward her. Most of the other passengers had already drifted away. The teenagers had wandered down the block. The woman with the grocery cart crossed the street. At the other end of the sidewalk, Mr. Harris was chatting with an old neighbor. He didn't see Lily's knuckles whitening as she clutched Oliver. He didn't hear the subtle edge in the man's voice. But Max did. From where he stood, Max's eyes were locked on the man. His body, once relaxed, now carried tension in every muscle. His tail stiffened. His ears pointed forward like radar. The man stepped even closer, smiling now, but it wasn't a kind smile. "Must be hard, looking after a little one all by yourself." "I'm fine," Lily said quickly, her voice barely above a whisper. The man leaned in, lowering his tone. "I could help you. You look cold. There's a cafe just up the street." Lily's pulse quickened. She took a step back until the metal frame of the bus shelter pressed into her spine. Oliver began to cry harder, his small fists squirming under the blanket. The man glanced around. No one else was paying attention. It was as if the world had gone deaf to what was happening just a few feet away. And then, a sound broke the air. One deep, commanding bark. The kind of bark that makes your skin prickle. Lily's head jerked toward it. Max was moving. The leash slipped from Mr. Harris's hand as the German shepherd strode forward. Eyes locked, chest low, every step deliberate. His paws hit the pavement with weight and purpose. The man froze, surprise flashing in his eyes. "Whoa, hey." Max didn't break his gaze. Another bark ripped from his chest, louder this time, echoing off the buildings. People finally began to turn their heads. Lily's breath caught. She'd never seen an animal look so focused, so sure. The man shifted, trying to step around Max to get closer to her. And that's when Max's lips curled just enough to show the edge of his teeth. His growl was low and steady, vibrating through the cold air like a warning siren. Lily instinctively stepped to the side, putting Max between her and the man. The warmth of the dog's body at her knees made her feel, for the first time that afternoon, just a little safer. The man looked at Max, then at the growing number of onlookers. His smirk faded. Max took one more step forward, forcing him to retreat an equal step backward. The tension in the air was no longer invisible. Everyone at the bus stop could feel it now. And still, Max didn't blink. The man's eyes darted left and right, measuring the distance between himself, the bus stop, and the growing cluster of people watching. His earlier swagger was gone. Now his movements were twitchy, unsure. Max didn't move except to angle his body even more squarely between Lily and the stranger. His growl stayed constant, like a warning line that could snap into action at any second. "Hey," the man said, raising his hands half-heartedly. "I'm just talking to her." Mr. Harris, who had turned when he heard Max's second bark, was already walking briskly toward them. His face had shifted from mild curiosity to sharp concern. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Lily opened her mouth to answer, but the man cut in first. "Nothing. Just being friendly." "Friendly?" Mr. Harris glanced at Lily, who shook her head quickly. "She looks scared," he said flatly. "Max doesn't growl at friendly." A few bystanders began whispering, their eyes moving between the man and the shepherd. Someone pulled out a phone, quietly starting to record. The man's jaw tightened. "Whatever," I was leaving anyway. He took a step back, but Max matched it, one paw landing forward in perfect sync. It wasn't aggression. It was control. The message was clear: you're not moving toward her. Not now. Not ever. Finally, the man turned sharply and started walking away, fast. Max watched him until he was halfway down the block before lowering his head slightly, though his ears stayed perked, still tracking him until he disappeared from sight. Lily felt her knees weaken with relief. She let out a shaky breath, pressing her cheek briefly against the top of Oliver's blanket. Mr. Harris reached her first. "Are you all right, miss?" I think so," she said softly. He kept asking questions and wouldn't go away. Mr. Harris's expression hardened. "And nobody here said anything?" The silence around the bus stop was answer enough. People looked away. A few shifted uncomfortably. But Max stepped closer to Lily, pressing his warm side against her leg. His eyes lifted to hers, and in that moment, she swore he understood exactly how scared she had been. "Looks like Max knew better than all of us," Mr. Harris said, a note of pride in his voice. The next bus finally pulled up, its brakes squealing, its doors folding open. Mr. Harris asked if she wanted him and Max to ride with her. Lily hesitated, then nodded. "Please." They boarded together, Max sitting alert by her feet, his body a steady barrier between her and the rest of the world. Oliver had stopped crying, lulled by the gentle rocking of the bus and the quiet safety of Max's presence. The ride passed mostly in silence, but every time Lily looked down at Max, she felt a warmth that wasn't just from his fur. It was from knowing someone, even if that someone had 4 legs, had chosen to step in when everyone else turned away. When they reached her stop, Mr. Harris offered to walk her the rest of the way home. She accepted. As they neared her street, she said softly, "Thank you, both of you." Mr. Harris smiled. Max was just doing what he's always done. Once a protector, always a protector. Max wagged his tail once, slow and certain, as if to agree. That night, after Lily had put Oliver down in his crib and checked the locks twice, she sat quietly on the edge of her bed. The weight of the day pressed on her, not just the fear of what almost happened, but the realization of what did happen. A complete stranger, a man she'd never met, had made her feel unsafe in a place filled with people. And yet, it wasn't another human who stepped forward. It was a German shepherd named Max. She thought about how many eyes had glanced her way and then looked past her. How many ears had heard her baby cry but ignored the tremble in her voice. How quickly people assumed it wasn't their business. Max didn't need to know her story. He didn't need to ask questions. He simply recognized that something wasn't right and acted. In a world where we're all so quick to avoid getting involved, Max reminded everyone at that bus stop of something we've been forgetting. Courage isn't about size or species or even the ability to speak. Courage is about stepping forward when it's easier to turn away. And maybe that's the moral here. We don't all have to be like Max in strength or instinct, but we can all be like Max in compassion. We can notice. We can care. We can step in when someone is in trouble, even if it feels uncomfortable, because someone's safety, someone's life, might depend on it. Lily still walks to that bus stop sometimes, and every now and then, she sees Max and Mr. Harris again. She always kneels down, lets Max sniff her hands, and scratches behind his ears. And every time, she whispers, "Thank you, hero." Max just wags his tail, like it's no big deal. But it was everything. So maybe the next time you see something that doesn't feel right, don't wait. Don't assume someone else will step in. Be the one who notices. Be the one who acts. Because the world needs more people with the heart of a loyal dog. And if you're watching this video because you love stories about animals who change lives, then I'd love for you to join this community. We share true, uplifting dog stories of courage, and moments that remind us of the deep loyalty and love between people and their pets. Hit the like button if Max's bravery inspired you. Subscribe if you want more tales of loyalty, compassion, and courage from the best dog ever to the loyal pup next door. And share this story, because maybe someone out there needs a reminder that heroes can have paws. And sometimes, they're the only ones who stop to listen.